A lot of people wonder if ham radio is dying. I almost didn't make this video because I was sure that I already knew the answer, but I was wrong. Here's why. Everyone assumes the hobby is shrinking because the older hams are aging out, but the data says something completely different is happening instead, and it's not what you would expect. There are 48,000 fewer licensed ham radio operators in this country than there were 5 years ago. That number has dropped every 6 months for 5 years straight. But over that same period of time, the number of people who went out in a park with their radio went up 400%. Both of those stats are true. Both come from public data, and I'll link to it below. And the reason they fit together? Ham radio is not dying, it's moving out of the shack and into the field. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the overall number of licensed hams has gone down, what parts of the hobby are growing at the same time, and why the entry-level technician class is the key to both stories. I've been licensed since 2010. I got into ham radio for the capabilities, not for the community, so I'm not here to paint some kind of rosy picture for you. Everything that I'm going to mention in this video comes from the FCC, the ARRL, or from other public sources, all of which I'm going to link below. Stick around for the end. The real question isn't whether the hobby is dying, it's what needs to happen next. Ham radio really is shrinking, and it's happening at the entry point. The all-time high for ham radio was in December 2021. 779,554 licensed hams. Today, that number sits at 731,069. We're currently below where we were in 2015. But look at where the numbers changed. Amateur extra grew a little. General is roughly flat. But the technician class, the entry-level license, is down more than 9%. That's a loss of about 36,000 people. I checked new license applications from the FCC. In 2019, the last normal year before the pandemic, there were 30,078. In 2025, there were 25,943. That's a drop of about 14%. Some people might quote a drop of 20%, but that's measuring from the 2021 COVID spike. 14% is a better number to compare with. Either way, the direction is the same. Fewer new people are walking in the front door. Now, I can't prove this with hard numbers, but here's what I think happened. We stopped recruiting effectively. The systems that used to bring people in aren't working as well as they used to. Fewer clubs are showing up at science fairs or STEM classes. Fewer people are actively introducing the hobby to kids or curious adults. For the most part, ham radio seems to be waiting for people to find it on their own, and fewer of them are doing that every year. And here's the idea that I want you to think about. The group that's shrinking the most is almost completely missing from the outdoor activity that's growing the fastest. We'll come back to that in a minute. This isn't the first time people said ham radio was dying. And both times, something unexpected saved it. In 1912, Congress passed the Radio Act and pushed amateurs onto the 200-meter bands and shorter. The Navy and commercial operators actually considered that that part of the radio spectrum was worthless at the time. They were absolutely sure those shorter waves wouldn't carry more than just a few miles. 2 years later, operators formed the American Radio Relay League, or the ARRL. The word relay tells you the problem that they were trying to solve. Messages had to be handed station to station to get across the country. Then World War I came and shut everything down until late 1919. But here's what saved ham radio then. People figured out that those worthless bands could do things that nobody expected. In 1921, a small station in Connecticut was heard in Scotland for the first time. Once people understood propagation and started building better antennas, they started making contacts across the globe, and ham radio expanded to a whole new level. Another concern came with the internet in the 1990s. Suddenly, anybody could talk around the world with no license, no antenna, and no radio needed. License numbers peaked relative to the population in the late 1990s, and then they started to slide. The raw count topped out in 2003, and then it fell for several years after that. But the hobby didn't die. It just lost the monopoly that it had on long-distance conversation. Basically, it needed a new reason to exist. Then, in 2017, one release changed what it actually took to make a contact. In 2017, a physicist named Joe Taylor released FT8. It can pull signals out of the noise that you can't even hear with your ears. Signals buried under the static that a computer still manages to hear and decode. Within months, it passed both voice and CW as the most used mode on the air. By 2020, it accounted for more than half of the contacts being logged in ham radio. That changed the game again. Before FT8, reliable contacts over real distance usually meant a serious antenna and a lot of times an amplifier. In other words, you had to have a shack. After FT8, a few watts and a wire hanging in a tree became enough. You can see the effect for yourself when band conditions get rough. For example, at Field Day last year, the total number of contacts dropped 8% because the higher bands were poor. Voice dropped 16%. CW dropped 6%. But digital went up 3%. Every major mode fell except the one built to work when you can't hear anything. Once an amp and an antenna farm stopped being required, the radio no longer had to stay in the shack. Once that changed, the gear followed, and so did most of the people using it. Look at what the manufacturers are building today. 10 years ago, the radio everybody wanted was a big 100-watt box for their desk. The most interesting new radios today are portable. That's the market voting. And the demand is real. QRP Labs, a small company making affordable, low-power portable radios, has hundreds of people on their waiting list, including me. Orders placed in March still hadn't shipped by July. And look at where people are taking those portable radios. Parks on the air barely existed a decade ago. In 2016, there were 286 activators. In 2025, there were 16,293. Contacts made from parks went from roughly 393,000 to over 15 million contacts. Now let me be clear, not everybody moved outside. Hundreds of thousands of people still operate from home as hunters. But the energy, the new radios, a lot of the awards, and most of the growth are concentrated on the person sitting in a park with a portable station. And the digital mode most of them are using is FT8. So who's actually out there activating and hunting all these parks? Almost none of them are technicians. Technicians make up roughly half of all licensed hams. Generals are about a quarter. Extras are about 1 in 5. Among park activators, that picture flips. 57% are extras, 39% are generals, and only about 2% are technicians. That's only a few hundred people out of more than 360,000 technicians. Now, a technician can activate a park. 10 meters, 6 meters, and limited HF, CW, and digital privileges exist, but almost nobody is using them. Most new technicians have a handheld radio or a dual-band mobile, not an HF rig. And the 10-meter band only works really when the sun cooperates. The practical line here seems to be the general license. Once people upgrade, they get an HF rig and they start showing up in the activity that's actually growing. And that gap points to the most fixable problem in ham radio. Going from technician to general is just one more written test. There's no CW requirement. You don't even have to pay the FCC application fee when you upgrade, just the $15 exam session fee. Right now, only about 1% of technicians upgrade in a given year. That's only about 4,000 people out of 360,000. If you have your technician license and it feels like other people are having a lot more fun in this hobby than you are, this is a big part of the reason. And it's the easiest problem to fix in this whole video. Go take the general test. So, is ham radio dying? The license numbers say it's definitely going down, and I'm not going to pretend that it's not. Is it thriving? Well, the people still in it are doing more, and they're doing it in more places than they ever have before. So both things are true. The hobby did get smaller, and a large part of what's left moved outside. Whether that becomes a real recovery depends on two things, to be honest. Number one, whether anyone bothers to show this hobby to people who have never heard about it. And two, whether the technicians already here take one more test. If any of this made you curious, I put together a free course on the top 5 things that frustrate most new hams. No hype, no jargon. It's the first link in the description, along with every source that I mentioned in this video. And if you found this information useful, please take a second to subscribe. I release new videos like this one every week, and you don't want to miss them. My name is Donnie, KD0JYV 73, and I'll see you in the next one.